getting back into our book. We are on page 40, and we have already talked about seconds and thirds just as intervals. What we're going to be talking about now is the difference between melodic and harmonic intervals. So on our top line in our book, we have melodic intervals, which is essentially they're just played separately after each other instead of at the same time, which will be the bottom line, which is our harmonic intervals. So we are going to start with the top line, melodic seconds and thirds. So this is still at C position, and it goes from our C and D to C and E on our right hand, and then a little different than some of the other things that we've seen in the book. We actually start with G and F and G and E on our left hand. As always, we will put our metronome on. We are at 80 beats per minute here, and we're going to play through this. The tricky part is really just getting used to the different intervals and then just the transition from hand to hand. But all of our rhythms are quarter notes, so you keep the tempo going and keep the rhythm the same. Let's try it. This one's not too bad. It's just the same thing that repeats twice on each hand. Let's try it again. Alright, and one more time. And we're going to speed this up a little bit. We moved it up to 100, which is a little bit quicker than what we usually do, but this one isn't too many drastic jumps or anything. Our hands stay in the same spot, so let's go ahead and go for it. And again. Let's look at the bottom line. So it's actually the same notes as the top line, except that now we are playing them in harmonic intervals, which is essentially just playing them at the same time. You play the notes together, so instead of the C and D back and forth, you play the C and D together. And then the C and E together. Alright, and then it's a half note, and then quarter, quarter, half on C and D, C, D, and then C and E. And if you notice, the seconds, when you play them together, sound a little bit more harsh, and the thirds sound a little nicer. So the seconds and then the thirds. Right. And it'll be the same thing with the left hand. When we go to the left hand, it's G and F and then G and E. We have the tempo back down to 80, and we're going to try these harmonic seconds and thirds, so the bottom line. And as we're playing this, really focus on playing them at the exact same time. Not same exact time. Again. One more time. Alright, and we're going to bump the tempo back to 100 and play this a couple times at a little bit faster speed. One more time. Looking at page 41 in our book, this tune actually uses the skills that we just learned with the difference between melodic and harmonic intervals, but it also adds in a new skill, a new term that we haven't seen yet, which is this quarter rest. So essentially that is just not playing. And what we really have to differentiate is what changes between playing a half note on beat 1 and playing a quarter note on beat 1 and then a quarter rest on beat 2. So when you are playing the half note, you want to hold that note down, and then the quarter note is just one beat, and then on beat 2 you would actually just lift up. So when I'm playing through this, I'm going to exaggerate that quite a bit, but in general you just need to stop playing when you come to rest. So this little lightning bolt kind of cursive Z looking thing, that's the quarter rest. And there are rests that are the same length, the same value as all of our notes. So quarter notes, half notes, whole notes, eighth notes, everything else will have its own rest length as well. Let's start with these quarter rests though. Alright, our metronome is set at 80 and we're going to get in C position. It's very similar notes as the little warm-ups that we learned on the previous page. But this tune starts with F, which is finger 4 on our right hand. So F, E, and D, and then when we get to those Ds on the second measure, that is where we have these new quarter rests. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into this and play it. Rest, 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 and repeat. Rest, 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 rest. All right, good. Let's do this again, and yeah, just calling some things out. We need to hold the half notes, and then once we get to the quarter note rest, that's when we need to make sure that we stop playing altogether. Dynamics pretty much stay forte the whole thing. Let's try it again. Set in C position, starting on F on our right hand. Repeat. All right, we have the tempo back at 100, so this is kind of quick, but we will see if we can get through it at this tempo. All right, so on these two pages, 40 and 41 of our book, we've introduced the difference between melodic and harmonic intervals, which is playing them separately or at the same time. And then on page 41, we actually started to bring in some quarter note rest, and then just continuing what we did on page 40 of the harmonic and melodic intervals.